If you bought this Revell kit of the F-105, you would have a direction sheet that looked like this. But how is this artwork made? We're going to tell you in Celebrating Aviation with Mike Machat. Okay, you saved up all that money. It's Saturday morning. You go to your favorite hobby shop. You buy the Lindbergh model of the Republic CB. You take it home, and at the bottom of the box is the direction sheet. You're going to use that to put this model together. Well, when you look at all the different styles of direction sheet art that existed in the mid-50s, here we see Hawk, Aurora, Revell, Lindbergh, and Monogram, all different styles. And we're going to talk about how this artwork was created. Let's start in chronological order. In the late 40s, this is an American Airlines Convair 240 Convair liner, went into service in 1948. If you wanted to buy a model of this airplane, it came in the form of a Strombecker wood kit. No carving tools needed, but boy, you went through some sandpaper on this thing. So let's look at the direction sheet. It's fairly complicated. This wouldn't be, I don't know what skill level this would be considered today, but this wasn't for a beginner, I'll tell you that. You got a bunch of wood pieces, and you had to shape them into these very complicated curved surfaces. And it showed you the step-by-step process, gave you the forms to match and all sorts of things like that. But the artwork itself was created by painting what the finished model would look like. And here you see the hand of the modeler sanding the nose into the proper contour. Amazingly detailed. I'll just read one of the call outs. Draw a level line across the windshield, 5/32 of an inch above the bottom of the center post. Round over the edges above this line to blend with the fuselage and the windshield. Really? Okay, well, I'll tell you, if you could build a model that looked like this out of that kit, you really had it going, and you had my full respect. I'll tell you that. So this is where plastic modeling came in. In about 1953, if you wanted to build a model of this Douglas Skyray prototype, you had the Lindbergh line and Aurora Famous Fighters. These two companies preceded Revell by a couple of years. But let's take a look at the direction sheet for the Skyray. This is called an exploded view. I always thought that was an odd word to use with airplanes, but it's an exploded drawing of the model itself, showing the photos of the pieces in the order and in the general way that you would put it all together. And then a photo at the lower right of the finished model underside to show where the armament goes. This is assuming you know how to build models. This is, again, not a beginner type kit. And then on the reverse side, you've got a photo of the finished model showing the decal placement and how to paint the pieces that need that. And at the bottom of that page is a catalog of what we call line art. And this represents all the other kits available at that time. And it made you want to go out and collect the whole set and buy every one of them. Aurora had a similar mode to their direction sheets. Here you see line art for the landing gear, a photo of the finished model of the CF-105 Arrow, but they used an exploded view of a painting of the parts of the model and how to put them together. So it was an interesting blend of all the techniques we just talked about. A good example of the artwork used in direction sheets is the Hawk kit of this beautiful airliner, the Capital Airlines Vickers Viscount. The Hawk kit was issued in 1956. This is the front side showing the assembly steps, a pretty good amount of information and a nice visual way of representing how everything goes together. Give you pretty much everything you need to know how to build this model. But on the reverse side, oh my gosh, I remember to this day, I remember buying this kit at Hobby Rama on Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center, New York. And I get it home and I take this thing out. I must have stared at this drawing for an hour. I was mesmerized. I couldn't believe how beautiful this was. The artist is John Zawiski, and this is an exquisite example of line art or tech art. And it was a very educational step as well. This is before you could Google, location of rudder thermal deicer outlet on the fin of a Vickers Viscount. But lo and behold, there it is on this drawing. And just look at the amount of information that's represented here. Tells you everything you need to know about the Rolls-Royce Dart engines. Just an amazing array of information and visual imagery. And I think this was inspirational for any of us who built models and even wound up in aviation as a career. It really began with this step right here. The lettering bears mention. This is really interesting. This is hand lettered. This is not typeset. It was done with a device called a Leroy lettering set, which is basically a plastic stencil that you'd slide along a metal guide and do one letter at a time. If you look at the spacing of the letters and even each letter, how different they are throughout the copy block, you can see that looks fairly organic. It's not computer set or typeset. And so the entire direction sheet for these callouts was lettered with a Leroy set, then was photographed, reduced in type and reduced in size, and then pasted up onto the final artwork. And then you had this, just an exquisite pen and ink illustration of the finished airplane cruising along. And as far as putting the model together, it was pretty intricate. You put the decals on and had a roll of sandpaper to get the windows smooth and put in all the little plastic, clear plastic pieces. And I'll admit very freely that I tried the cockpit windows and wound up with 7 little teeny pieces all glued to my thumb and forefinger. And my cockpit windows were just nice, clear, open windows on my Viscount model. But the last thing to mention is the tonality. There's a number of different devices. The artist is using line art to create tone. And then what you see here with the arrow is called Zipatone, which is a adhesive sheets of patterns and different designs that you would place over the line drawing and then cut out the exact pattern. It was translucent, you could see through it. And then you'd paste it to the artwork, and this is how it would photograph. And it would indicate shape and shadow and so on, but it was a very mechanical process. Here's an example. I'm going to use Photoshop. This is a digital version of using Zipatone, but it's an example of how tone can really define a shape. I'm going to color the engines of the upper airplane, the DC-861, and using 4 different shades of gray, you can see how it really, just even in flat color, it defines it compared to the Series 71 at bottom. So now, also in 1956, this kit came out, the Monogram Super G Constellation, a landmark model in every sense of the word. A beautiful airplane, and the direction sheet was quite comprehensive, gave you everything you needed to know. And here you see a beautiful combination of line art, the Zipatone, and the exploded view used a combination of hand-painted tone, the Zipatone on the wings and tail, and the callouts. That's what these lettering was called, that gives you the parts identification. And then there was this guy. I never met him, but I always saw his fingers on these direction sheets. Man, could he build models. Yeah, he's painting a de-icer boot on the vertical fin, and look at the edge of that thing. Yeah, good trick. But for 98 cents, this was a lot of kit. This buildup was built by my friend Craig Cadera. And but that was a lot of model for $1, I'll tell you. Let's look at Ravel's approach. We're going to use the 105, which came out in 1958. And I'm sorry, 1957. There it is on the direction sheet. Ravel had an interesting mode of conveying information. You've got this coupon at the top for Department X. If any parts were missing, and remember, this is back in the days when the boxes were open, there were no poly bags or anything like that. The dealers would tape them shut on the sides of the boxes to prevent parts from falling out. But if you were missing a part, you would just send the coupon and circle the part that was missing and send it to Department X. Well, Ravel was just drowning in missing part orders, and they wound up using a number of different ways to solve that problem. And we'll save that for another video. But what I wanted to convey here is the amount of information. Lloyd Jones was the research historian at that time, and he did a beautiful job, God bless him, of just the amount of information that was contained on these. It was really an education. Told you everything you needed to know about the airplane, the history, the engine, performance. And I even love this. It says, also planned as a photo reconnaissance version, which will be classified as the RF-105. Well, that airplane was never produced. The mission went to the RF-101 Voodoo, but there were 3 airplanes fitted with photo noses. You see it here. They were called JF-105Bs, and they never carried cameras, but these became dedicated test airplanes that flew out of Farmingdale from the Republic plant. And the fact that Revell even noted that in that direction sheet was an amazement to me. I have to tell you, the most logical, concise, best representation of a step-by-step process to build this. These are airbrush and hand-painted parts of the model shown in the order that you'd put it all together. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the arrows. You see these arrows with the white edges. These are also paste up items. These come on a large sheet in different lengths, and you take an X-Acto blade and cut it to the length you need, peel it up, and paste it down onto the board, and that's how you get that white edge around the arrow. So here's the final 3 steps. And now you've got an almost completed model, and we're put the decals, and there's your finished F-105. And finally, another type of artwork used in these direction sheets is decal placement. We're going to look at this United DC-8. It was a Revell S kit, came out in 1958-59 time period. Really a beautiful model. This featured the flush rivet detail for the first time. And so instead of having bowling ball sized rivets on the skin of the airplane, it was very subtle, and it really looked almost scale perfection to see all the detail. But the decals came in a lot of different pieces. And so this is to make sure you knew where everything went. And this is line art and a bit of tone at the upper right, showing how the decal is placed. And that's the finishing touch to your airliner kit that you'd build using the regular direction sheet. Even the wings, upper and lower surfaces, are identified. I like the way the fuselage is shown broken there in the technique of the time. And even the boarding stairs have decals on them at the upper right. So there you have it, a look at how direction sheet artwork is created. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Celebrating Aviation with Mike Machat. As always, special thanks to all the wonderful friends who make modeling such a magical experience. We've known each other many years, and these are all just wonderful, wonderful folks. So until next time, take care.